Have you been praying for relief, yet every day still feels heavy? What if the pain you've been carrying is not a sign that Allah has abandoned you, but a sign that your breakthrough is closer than you think? Many believers lose hope just before Allah opens doors they never imagined. In this reminder, you'll discover 4 powerful signs that may show your hardship is nearing its end, drawn from the wisdom of the Qur'an and Sunnah. Stay until the end, because the final sign is one that many people overlook, yet it has transformed the hearts of countless believers. Never underestimate what Allah can change in a single moment. When life becomes heavy, one of the easiest mistakes we can make is believing that the difficult chapter we are living in will last forever. Pain has a way of convincing us that tomorrow will look exactly like today. A disappointment turns into another disappointment. A prayer seems unanswered. A door closes, then another. Slowly, without even realizing it, hope begins to fade. But this is exactly where faith asks something different of us. Faith asks us to see beyond what our eyes can currently see. There is something remarkable about the way Allah teaches us through hardship. He never tells us that life will be free from trials. In fact, He prepares us for them. Tests are not evidence that Allah has forgotten you. They are not proof that you are unloved. Sometimes the people closest to Allah carried the greatest burdens. The prophets experienced loss, rejection, loneliness, betrayal, and immense difficulty. Yet none of those hardships meant Allah had abandoned them. On the contrary, those very struggles became part of their elevation. Think about that for a moment. If hardship alone were a sign of Allah's displeasure, then the lives of the prophets would have looked completely different. Instead, they remind us that difficulty and divine love can exist together. That realization changes everything. It shifts the question from, why is this happening to me, to, what is Allah teaching me through this? One of the greatest traps during hardship is believing that what you feel is the full reality. When sadness settles into the heart, it whispers that nothing will improve. When financial pressure continues for months or years, it tells you relief will never come. When illness lingers, it convinces you this is your permanent future. But feelings are not always facts. Allah's promise is more reliable than our emotions. His wisdom reaches far beyond what we understand in the present moment. Many times, we only recognize Allah's wisdom when we look backward. We remember opportunities we desperately wanted that never happened. At the time, they felt like devastating losses. Yet months or years later, we realize those closed doors protected us from greater pain. We meet people who become blessings only because someone else walked away. We arrive at places we never planned to reach because our original plans failed. Looking back, we begin to see that Allah was arranging everything with knowledge we simply did not possess. This does not mean hardship is easy. Islam never asks us to pretend pain does not hurt. Tears are not weakness. Feeling exhausted does not make you less faithful. Even the most righteous people cried, grieved, and felt overwhelmed. What matters is that they never allowed temporary pain to erase their trust in Allah's permanent wisdom. Every hardship carries a limit, even when you cannot see where it ends. No storm lasts forever. No night refuses to give way to dawn. The seasons themselves remind us that change is built into Allah's creation. Winter eventually becomes spring. Dry land welcomes rain again. A seed spends time buried beneath the earth before anyone witnesses its growth. If Allah has placed this pattern throughout creation, why would we believe our own hardship is the one exception? Perhaps today you feel as though your prayers have gone unheard. Perhaps you have reached the point where you no longer know what words to say. If that is where you are, remember this: silence from your perspective does not mean absence from Allah's. He hears every whispered prayer, every tear that falls when no one else is watching, every sigh that never becomes a sentence. Nothing escapes His knowledge, and nothing reaches you except by His permission and wisdom. Sometimes Allah delays an answer because He is preparing you for a blessing greater than the one you requested. Sometimes He removes something because He sees a danger you cannot. Sometimes He asks you to wait because the right time has not yet arrived. Waiting is painful, but waiting with trust transforms the heart. It teaches patience, humility, gratitude, and complete reliance on the one who controls every outcome. So if you are carrying a burden today, do not let it convince you that your story is over. This chapter may be difficult, but it is still only a chapter. Allah has written every page with perfect wisdom, and the one who began your story is fully capable of changing it in a single moment. Never mistake a difficult season for a hopeless future. One of the first signs that your hardship may be approaching its end is something many people completely overlook. It doesn't begin around you, it begins within you. Before Allah changes your circumstances, He often changes your heart. That change is subtle. It doesn't arrive with noise or fanfare. It comes quietly, almost unexpectedly. The same situation that once filled you with constant fear no longer has the same grip on you. The questions are still there. The uncertainty hasn't disappeared, yet somehow your heart begins to settle. This kind of peace cannot be bought, forced, or explained by worldly standards. It is a gift from Allah. You wake up one morning and realize you are no longer carrying the same weight on your shoulders. You still make dua, you still hope for relief, but desperation slowly transforms into trust. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, how can I remain faithful while I wait? That is a powerful shift. Many people believe peace comes after the problem is solved, but Allah often teaches the opposite. Sometimes peace arrives first and then the solution follows. Why? Because Allah wants your heart to depend on Him, not merely on the outcome you are waiting for. If your peace only exists when life is easy, then it is fragile. But when your peace comes from knowing Allah is in control, no hardship can completely take it away. You may even notice that your prayers become different. You stop trying to control every detail. You stop demanding immediate answers. Instead, you begin speaking to Allah with a deeper sense of surrender. You recognize that His timing is perfect, even when it doesn't match your own. That surrender is not giving up. It is choosing to trust the one who sees what you cannot. People around you may wonder why you seem calmer despite your circumstances remaining unchanged. They may not understand it because this kind of tranquility is not produced by comfort. It is produced by faith. It is the quiet confidence that Allah has never abandoned you and never will. Even if the road ahead is still unclear, you know you are not walking it alone. This inner peace also protects you from despair. You no longer measure Allah's mercy by how quickly your prayers are answered. Instead, you begin to notice His mercy in the strength He gives you each day to keep going. You realize that surviving the trial with your faith intact is itself a tremendous blessing. And when your heart learns to rest in Allah before your circumstances improve, you are already closer to relief than you may realize. When Allah calms your heart, He is often preparing to change your path. As that peace begins to settle in your heart, something else often starts to change. You find yourself turning to Allah more naturally than before. Not because someone reminds you to, but because your soul begins to recognize where true strength has always come from. This is the second sign that your hardship may be drawing closer to its end. Your relationship with Allah becomes deeper, more sincere, and more personal. It is interesting how comfort can sometimes make us feel self-sufficient, while hardship strips away that illusion. When everything is going well, we can easily move through our days believing we are in control. We make plans, set goals, and assume tomorrow is guaranteed. But a trial has a way of revealing how fragile that certainty really is. Suddenly, the heart begins searching for something that cannot be shaken. It begins searching for Allah. Perhaps your dua has become more heartfelt than it has ever been. You no longer speak to Allah with routine words alone. You speak with honesty. You tell Him about your fears, your disappointments, your hopes, and even your moments of weakness. And there is something profoundly beautiful about that kind of conversation, because Allah already knows what is inside your heart. He is not waiting for information. He is inviting you into closeness. You may notice that your prayers feel different as well. They are no longer just part of your schedule. They become your place of refuge. In sujood, the world becomes quieter. The burden you carry feels lighter, even if only for a few moments. You leave your prayer not because every problem has disappeared, but because you have remembered who is carrying what you cannot. Sometimes we think the greatest miracle is the removal of a trial. Yet there is another miracle that is often overlooked: the transformation of the person going through it. The hardship that once seemed determined to break you begins to shape you instead. It teaches patience when you wanted immediate answers. It teaches gratitude for blessings you once ignored. It teaches humility, reminding you that every breath, every opportunity, and every moment of ease is ultimately from Allah. And then something remarkable happens. You stop seeing worship as an obligation you must complete, and you begin experiencing it as a gift you are grateful to receive. Reading the Qur'an brings comfort instead of routine. Dhikr becomes something your heart reaches for without being reminded. Trust in Allah becomes less of an idea and more of a way of living. This does not mean you never feel sadness again. It does not mean your questions disappear overnight. But beneath those emotions, a stronger foundation has been built. You begin to understand that your greatest victory is not simply escaping hardship. It is becoming someone who remains connected to Allah through every season of life. Often, before Allah changes your circumstances, He strengthens the heart that will walk into the blessing. And that strength is one of the clearest signs that He is preparing you for something greater than you can yet imagine. A heart that grows closer to Allah is already moving closer to relief. As your relationship with Allah grows stronger, you may begin to notice something changing around you as well. Not always in dramatic ways, but in quiet moments that are easy to miss. A conversation leads to an unexpected opportunity. A door you never considered begins to open. A solution appears where there once seemed to be none. This is often another sign that your hardship is nearing its end. It is tempting to focus on the doors that remain closed, but faith invites us to notice the ones Allah is gently opening. Sometimes the blessing does not arrive in the package you imagined. It comes through a delay that redirects you, a disappointment that protects you, or a path you never planned to take. Looking back, you realize that every closed door was not a punishment, it was guidance. Allah was clearing the way for something better suited to your life, your faith, and your future. When you begin to see these small openings, welcome them with gratitude rather than fear. Do not dismiss them because they seem insignificant. Great changes often begin with a single step that only makes sense in hindsight. When Allah opens the right door, no closed one can hold you back. As those new doors begin to open, another transformation quietly takes place. You start looking back at your hardships through a different lens. The very experiences that once felt unbearable begin to reveal lessons you could not have seen while you were living through them. This is one of the clearest signs that healing is already happening. You may remember nights when you wondered why Allah allowed certain things to happen. At the time, all you could see was loss. But now with distance and reflection, you begin to recognize wisdom where you once saw only pain. Perhaps that disappointment protected you from something greater. Perhaps that delay built a patience you never knew you possessed. Perhaps that broken chapter brought you closer to Allah than years of comfort ever could. This shift does not erase the memories or pretend the pain never existed. Instead, it gives those memories a new purpose. Rather than defining you by what you suffered, they remind you of how faithfully Allah carried you through every difficult moment. Gratitude begins to replace bitterness, and trust begins to replace regret. When your perspective changes, your burden becomes lighter, not because the past is rewritten, but because your heart has been renewed. You realize that Allah never wasted a single tear, a single prayer, or a single moment of waiting. The moment you see wisdom in your pain, healing has already begun. As you begin to recognize wisdom in your past and hope in your present, there is one final reminder that deserves to stay with you long after this talk ends. It is often at the very moment when people are closest to relief that they feel most tempted to give up. After praying for so long, waiting for so long, and carrying so much, the heart becomes tired. It starts to whisper, maybe nothing is ever going to change. That whisper is one you must never allow to become your truth. Faith is not measured only by how passionately you pray when life is easy. It is revealed by whether you continue turning to Allah when every visible sign tells you to stop hoping. That is where patience becomes something much deeper than simply waiting. It becomes an act of worship. It becomes the quiet decision to trust Allah even when you cannot trace His plan. Think about how many stories in life change in a single unexpected moment. A phone call, a conversation, an opportunity, a chance meeting, news you never anticipated. We accept that life itself can change in an instant. So why should we doubt that Allah can transform our circumstances just as quickly? The one who created the heavens and the earth is never limited by the obstacles that seem impossible to us. Sometimes we imagine that our prayers are rising into silence because the answer has not yet appeared. But every sincere dua is heard. Every tear shed in private is known. Every moment of patience is seen by the one whose knowledge misses nothing. Even when you feel forgotten by the world, you are never forgotten by Allah. There will be days when your faith feels strong, and there will be days when simply taking the next step feels like a struggle. Do not mistake those difficult days for failure. Returning to Allah again and again, even after moments of weakness, is itself a sign of sincere faith. He does not ask for perfection. He asks for hearts that continue to seek Him. So if you are listening today while carrying a burden that no one else fully understands, let this be the thought you hold on to. Your current situation is not the final chapter of your story. What feels permanent today may become tomorrow's testimony. The hardship that has been shaping your character may soon become the very reason you are able to strengthen someone else's faith. Allah has a way of bringing beauty from places where we expected only brokenness. Keep making dua, even when the words feel repetitive. Keep praying, even when your emotions are heavy. Keep trusting, even when the road ahead is hidden. Every act of patience, every sincere prayer, and every moment of reliance upon Allah is an investment that is never lost. His timing is never early, never late, but always perfectly aligned with His infinite wisdom. Perhaps your breakthrough is closer than you think. Perhaps the prayer you have repeated 1,000 times is about to be answered in a way greater than you imagined. And perhaps the greatest victory waiting for you is not only the end of your hardship, but the person you have become because you chose to trust Allah through it. Never give up, because Allah can change everything in a single moment. As we come to the end of this reminder, I want to leave you with one final thought. Whatever burden you are carrying today, never allow it to convince you that Allah has forgotten you. Every hardship has a purpose, every delay has wisdom, and every sincere prayer is heard, even if the answer comes in a way or at a time you do not expect. If these words have brought comfort to your heart, don't let them stop here. Share this reminder with someone who may be struggling in silence. Sometimes a single message can restore hope in a heart that was ready to give up. And perhaps Allah will reward you for being the means through which someone else remembers Him. Continue turning to Allah in your moments of ease, just as you do in your moments of hardship. Build your relationship with Him every day, because the strongest hearts are those that remain connected to their Creator in every season of life. If you found this reminder beneficial, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future reminders that strengthen your faith and bring you closer to Allah. May Allah replace every hardship with ease, every fear with peace, and every sincere dua with what is best in this life and the hereafter. Ameen.